Hi again, everyone. Part two to our sermon companion from Sunday. I want to look at Romans and fill in a few gaps here. Our passage is Romans 8:18 to 30. For I consider that the sufferings of this present time are not worth comparing with the glory that is to be revealed to us. Paul has the future in mind as he suffers. You can't be locked into the present during suffering. You have to look forward in hope to the future. We touched on that yesterday. So keep going. For the creation waits with eager longing for the revealing of the sons of God. For the creation was subject to futility, not willingly, but because of him who subjected it, in hope that the creation itself will be set free from its bondage to corruption and obtain the freedom of the glory of the children of God. For we know that the whole creation has been groaning together in the pains of childbirth until now. All right, so this is the part I wanted to fill in. My point yesterday was that we live in a broken world, stuff happens. When stuff happens, it doesn't mean every time bad things happen that someone has sinned and God's punishing you or correcting you. Now, there's a lesson in all suffering. There's no doubt about that. But it just means that we live in a fallen and broken world until Jesus remakes it, and stuff's going to happen. And we have to trust that he's going to redeem those things. So just a couple things to add. Even though stuff happens, God never wastes that stuff. The longing for birth, right? In other words, every bit of suffering, every labor pain, every trial, tribulation points forward to something better that is going to be redeemed. And so it's not for nothing. It's not fruitless. All suffering is redeemed by God. There's no waste in his economy. That's the first thing. The second thing is, what is this bit about it being subject to futility and waiting for the revealing of the sons of God? Okay, this is rooted in Genesis, where God creates human beings to be his co-regents over the creation, meaning their job is to have dominion alongside of God as his partners in reigning over the creation. And as we fell, Adam and Eve fell in the garden, we fall. As we fell and we fall, it doesn't just impact us, it impacts everything around us, including the creation, because the creation's destiny is tied to our destiny. What we do, the decisions that we make, our separation from God, our rebellion against God, prevents the glory of God from filling the creation, which makes it, the words here, corrupt, in bondage, futility. And so, what Paul is saying is that in the new Adam, who is Jesus, humans will be restored to what God originally intended them to be. And as humans are restored to what God originally intended them to be, the creation will be what it was always intended to be. So, in a way, when I say the world is fallen, the world is corrupt, stuff happens, and in other words, it's nobody's fault. Well, that's only partially true. It kind of is somebody's fault, because the reason the world is corrupt is because of us. The world is what we make it. Now, I'm talking about direct versus indirect implications, direct versus indirect outcomes, consequences of sin in the world. What I'm saying is, just because a house burned down doesn't mean that you've sinned. It could. Now, the fact that a house can burn down is because sin is in the world. It's not that it's no one's fault. It may not be directly your fault. House burning down is just a silly, arbitrary example. There's much more evil things we could point towards. So the future, the state of the creation is tied to humanity's fulfillment of their calling to be made in the image of God. When we don't reign the way that God reigns, the creation suffers. And so Paul is saying Jesus has inaugurated a new creation in a new Adam. And those who are a part of the new Adam will bring about the new creation. And so he's saying then creation, he's using personification, attributing human-like attributes to non-human entities. So he's describing creation as if creation's a person, looks forward to and longs to see the revealing of the children of God. It talks about us as the first fruits. The creation's going, look, there's hope that the creation, will be restored because there are new Adams in Christ walking about the earth. They are the first fruit is the first gleaning that is offered as evidence that there's more to come. And so it looks to redeemed humans to go, I'm going to be redeemed too. Look, there's hope. Someone's living into the true Adam as Adam was always supposed to be. And so while the groaning is pain, it's also a longing. It's like, oh, I want that. Oh, I've been waiting for that. There is a sort of desperate cry that is inspired by hope that there's something better to come, because because there's evidence of a better future out there. So Paul is saying creation looks at Jesus and looks at Christians being formed in the image of Jesus and saying, oh, look, guys, we're going to be creation, trees, birds, fish, air, all this stuff that's in the creation, even government. We're going to be set free from the bondage that we're in. Because look, there's evidence of a new creation, and that evidence is Christians. So that's what he's talking about there. I hope that clarifies that point. That's the main point I wanted to make. Let me touch on this. I made a comment about Arminianism at the end of the section here. It says, for those whom he foreknew, he also predestined to be conformed to the image of his son, in order that he might be the firstborn among many brothers. That's verse 29. Paul uses predestination language all the time, but I am not a Calvinist, meaning I don't believe in double predestination. I don't believe that God created people to send them to hell. I don't believe in unconditional election, limited atonement, irresistible grace, or perseverance of the saints in the way that Calvinists understand them. And so they say, well, how do you deal with these questions of predestination, or these times where Paul talks about we're predestined? This is the verse through which we filter and interpret all references to predestination that Paul mentions. He says, for those whom he foreknew, he predestined. And so, yes, I say I believe in predestination. There's corporate predestination. Those who are in Christ, those who choose to be incorporated into Christ, have a certain destiny, but we choose to be a part of the chosen people who is predestined to be rescued. Now, particular election of individuals, Jesus knew who would chose. The Lord knew in advance who would respond to the gift of grace, to the gift of salvation. He knew those in advance. He foreknew when he offered the gift of salvation, those who would accept it. He says, those who I foreknew, I predestined. Those are the ones who will who have the certainty of salvation. Now, foreknowledge, some believe, means that people don't have freedom of choice. I don't believe that. Just because God knew in advance that someone would do something doesn't mean that they didn't have a choice in that they didn't have a choice to do it. Just because he knew it in advance doesn't take away their freedom of making that choice. They still had full freedom. He just knew what they would choose. This is not a perfect example, but if I put, a lollipop or a raw broccoli in front of my son, I can tell you which one he's going to choose. Doesn't mean he didn't have free will in the matter. Now, why that example is imperfect is because you didn't give him much of a real choice, because who would, pick broccoli over? You never know, though. He might surprise you, right? So, but nonetheless, foreknowledge is not the same as predestination. Just because God knew it would happen doesn't mean that they didn't have a choice in the matter. Also, and this is the purpose of this, is just to briefly fill in a gap, right? Not going to exhaust or settle the debate in a short sermon companion here. There's no point of a call to repentance. I don't even want to get into the whole argument. Let me just point out that this verse is key in operating for how we interpret Paul's declarations about election and predestination in terms of God's foreknowledge. Foreknowledge doesn't necessitate someone's will being taken away. Doesn't mean that they didn't have a choice in the matter. Okay, so those are the major gaps. The big gap I wanted to fill in, I didn't want to stir up controversy around Arminianism versus Calvinism. That's not the point. We can agree to disagree on those matters. Those are non-essentials of the faith. But I think that foreknowledge piece, this verse, is important in that discussion, especially for those who reject Calvinism, like myself, along with the rest of the, most of the Wesleyan tradition, vast majority, the Wesleyan tradition. It's hard to be Wesleyan and not Arminian. Okay, nonetheless, the creation and its groaning, and what does it have to do with anticipating the sons of God? So hopefully we filled in that gap. I hope that you have found this helpful. And again, we will see you Wednesday at 5 o'clock for dinner, free pizza, 6 o'clock Bible study. Have a great week.